discharged from hospital, stressing that the knife attack has only strengthened the two countries' unbreakable bond. German Chancellor Angela Merkel on a trip to Japan once again calls on the Japanese government to come to terms with the country's dark past if it wants to rebuild ties with its neighbours. First, 10 people are killed in a helicopter crash in Argentina during filming for a reality television show. Daybreak begins now.
Hello, thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, March 11th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom, and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, US Ambassador to South Korea Mar-11 is settling back into his day-to-day activities after he was discharged from hospital on Tuesday, 5 days after a shocking knife attack. The US envoy said the experience, while terrifying, would not affect his approachable style to diplomacy. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
Scarred but with a huge smile on his face, Ambassador Lippert thanked the South Korean public for their support following last week's brutal knife attack. Speaking to reporters before leaving the hospital on Tuesday, the U.S. envoy said in Korean that the incident will only strengthen ties between Seoul and Washington.
비연 돼 땅이 굳어진다.
Ambassador Lippert, who was attacked by a man wielding a knife at a breakfast meeting in central Seoul last week, needed 80 stitches on his right cheek and left arm. The stitches on his face have been removed, but doctors will be visiting his home every day to check on his arm until he is fully recovered. All things considered, the envoy says he feels pretty darn good.
I mean, it was obviously a scary incident, but I'm walking, talking, holding my baby, hugging my wife. So I just feel really good.
But he did hint at a possible change in the security procedures, as many blamed lack security for his injuries. At the time of the attack, the ambassador only had one full-time South Korean bodyguard with him.
But obviously, as people and the State Department in Washington have said, we're going to take a hard look at our techniques, procedures here, and I'll leave it to the security experts to come up with recommendations and policies going forward.
The ambassador, with a mix of Korean words, asked the South Korean public to treat him as they had done before the incident, as the guy next door and Sejun's dad.
I will still be a 동네 아저씨 and Sejuni Appa, as people here in Korea have called me.
Despite the appalling incident, Ambassador Lippert said that he wants to return to the job as soon as possible to advance the alliance between their two countries, adding that there will be no changes to their economic, political, and military cooperation. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea plans to impose sanctions on any company that complies with North Korea's recent unilateral wage hike at the inter-Korean factory complex in Kaesong. Seoul's Unification Ministry says the government plans to outline the possible legal and administrative punishments if they hike wages in March. This follows Pyongyang's decision to up the monthly salary of North Korean workers at the complex by 5%. To $74. The ministry says that if the measure is implemented, North Korea would earn almost $500,000 in additional revenue from the complex. Seoul says it wants to hold talks with the North on the matter, but the call has so far gone unanswered. Senior officials from South Korea, China and Japan will meet this morning in Seoul to lay the groundwork for a trilateral foreign ministers meeting set for later this month. Korean officials say today's meeting will focus on ways to boost three-way cooperation and add that the issues discussed will also be on the agenda at the upcoming higher-level talks. Now, one of the key issues is to gauge the possibility of a trilateral summit a little further down the road. Korea and Japan both see the need for a leaders' summit, despite the numerous historical and territorial disputes among the three countries. China is less keen and is advising a more cautious approach. The trilateral foreign ministers meeting has been stalled since 2012 after Japan nationalized its Senkaku Islands, known as Diaoyu in China. Japan and China each claim ownership of the East China Sea islands. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, on a visit to Japan, has once again urged the country to address its wartime past and stress the importance of reconciliation with its neighbours. Merkel's latest remarks add to the mounting international pressure on Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to offer a full and frank apology during his highly anticipated statement on this issue. Now, Kim Ji-yeon reports.
During the second day of her two-day visit to Japan, German Chancellor Angela Merkel reportedly advised Japan to properly address the issue of the forced sexual enslavement of Asian women during World War II. Japan-based Kyodo News reports that Merkel emphasized the importance of reconciliation between Japan and Korea during her meeting with the leader of Japan's opposition Democratic Party, Kazuya Okada. Merkel added that it's important to face the problems of the past in response to Okada's concerns about a lack of reconciliation with Japan's neighboring countries, mainly Korea and China. A day before, she had urged Japan to face its wartime atrocities, referring to Germany's reconciliatory efforts after World War II. Merkel's latest remarks have been seen as a call for change in the lukewarm attitude currently taken by the administration of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe toward acknowledging Japan's wartime atrocities. And she's not the only one pressuring Japan to offer an apology. Korea's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Do Gang-il said on Tuesday that the country expects Japan to build trust with its neighbors by making courageous efforts to face up to its history, just as Germany did after World War II. Also, U.S. Representative Mike Honda has said that Abe should not be allowed to appear before the U.S. Congress without repenting for the country's wartime history. In February, Abe had conveyed his wish to address Congress, and if he does, he will become the first Japanese Prime Minister to do so. Prime Minister Abe is set to issue a statement in August to mark the 70th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II, but there's speculation that it will try to water down Japan's wartime atrocities. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.